What's up, guys? We are back for another SH Figuarts review from Bandai Tamashii Nations, going a little bit off the beaten path. I don't do much in terms of this franchise. I've only reviewed one figure thus far, and that is Kamen Rider. So we're taking a look at the SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU Kamen Rider 2 figure from Bandai. This is one of the reissue style figures that has updated sculpt, paint, articulation, all that sorts of stuff. So this guy comes in a really snazzy box. The front has a picture of Kamen Rider 2 on the front. It's a slipcover style box, and then the back has some product shots and all of the legalese and all that kind of stuff. So it shows you pretty much everything you can do with this guy on the back, and then it says Masked Rider on the side, Masked Rider 2. So we're going to pull him out, take a look. Alright guys, here he is out of the package, and after this review, if you're interested in checking one of these out for yourself, you can pick him up at BigBadToyStore.com. I'll throw a link down in the description below. But as far as this figure goes, if you've seen my previous review of Kamen Rider 1, you're going to see a lot of the same stuff, because for the most part, these are basically the same figure. There are a few cosmetic changes, but in general, these guys are very, very similar. They share pretty much the exact same look and feel, and that's just kind of the thing that came about of the show way back in the day, because they needed to make another Kamen Rider, and they did so on the cheap. So we're going to talk about articulation, paint and sculpt, and all that. It's going to be real quick because we'll compare them to the original Kamen Rider 1 so you can see what I'm talking about. And of course, I'll put a link down below to that first review if you haven't checked that out as well. Now, as far as articulation goes, this guy is, for the most part, pretty much your standard modern-day Figuarts release. He's not missing anything. He doesn't really bring anything new to the table either, though. We've got a head that can swivel back and forth, little bob side to the side action. He can look up, he can look down. You can move these antennae around to pose them a little bit if you so choose. I would suggest not doing that. Looking at them the wrong way will likely make them fall off. The scarf is articulated. It sits on its own little ring around the neck, so you can move that around. This is also a separate piece, so you could pop that off. The chest armor is articulated. You can move these plates around to help better pose him. We've got arms that go out pretty far, just as far as you might ever need. Rotation, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and then our standard Figuarts ball hinge down there. We've got upper torso articulation. We have got waist rotation. So you can move him back pretty far because he's got two joints in there, and then you can hunch him down pretty far as well. As far as the legs go, it's pretty much like I've said, kind of standard stuff for Figuarts these days. Legs can kick out, they can kick forward, they can go backwards, and there's a lot of movement in there. So all these plates in here, of course, will help hide those joints as well. We've got thigh cut. Of course, with this figure, because he's got the piping down his legs, you move him too far and you're going to get, some kind of wonkiness there. Standard Figuarts knee, so you got pretty good movement there. And then there is nothing at the boot. That's pretty standard for Figuarts, so you don't have anything down there. But we do have rocker, hinge, rotation, and then you've got your standard toe articulation down there as well. So he's pretty much stacked in terms of Figuarts style articulation. Again, nothing missing, but nothing extra. Now, as far as paint and sculpt goes, I figured this is the perfect time to bring in Kamen Rider 1 for comparison, because, like I said, if you saw my first review, you basically know what to expect here, because these guys are almost identical in pretty much every way. The whole point of Kamen Rider 2 was so that there was a replacement for Kamen Rider 1 during the show, because the actor for Kamen Rider 1 was injured, so they needed to replace him, so they made a new character altogether. So for that whole purpose, he basically shares the same suit. So we've got the same kind of belt, we've got the same chest armor. The chest armor on version 2 is slightly darker in terms of that kind of foresty green look, but everything else is basically the same here. You've got the bug eyes, you've got that light green helmet, you have got the silver pinstriping that runs down the arms and legs, and on these newer versions, you've got a change from the previously released versions that have a bit of joint mimicry, I guess, to help it look like the paint on the pinstriping flows a little better into the joints. But the big change between this particular character, this figure, and the original is just in the gloves and the boot color for the most part. The original one is obviously silver, the new one is red. And one thing that I like quite a bit with this new figure, outside of the fact that I think he looks great, this is a fantastic interpretation of Kamen Rider 1 and 2 in plastic. But what they did, and this is something that, you kind of see a lot in older Toku or Sentai shows, is that their gloves and boots get really, really dirty. And they don't do a good job of hiding it. You see some nasty, grimy gloves. And for the red, on all of the hands and on the boots, you can see that the paint job kind of mimics the used and worn look that these gloves and boots would have had in the show. So there's kind of a wash on them almost to make it look like they're worn and used, and they certainly would look like that in the show. So that's kind of an interesting detail that I wasn't expecting, because we don't have that on Kamen Rider 1, but that's something that I definitely remember being a part of the show, and it's basically a thing throughout any Toku or Sentai show in terms of the fact that they don't try to hide that stuff very well. So that's a really cool detail, but again, like I said, these guys are pretty identical outside of a few minor cosmetic changes. Now, as far as accessories goes, these guys really don't have a great deal to talk about. It's mostly just some extra hands and one extra thing. So we'll start there. So we've got a replacement scarf here that I've popped on. So like I said, you can take the scarf off, and there are two. So we've got one that hangs over the chest, and then you've got another that looks like it's billowing in the wind. So they both come with this. I think it's a great inclusion, so you can make them a little more dynamic if you've got him doing like a rider kick or something like that. We have got an open style gripping hand, which I find weird for these because they don't come with anything to hold. We've got an open but relaxed hand. We have got a karate chop style hand, and then we have got a open style pose hand, which I really dig these. It's very quintessential Kamen Rider kind of pose. And then this one comes with something that these two can share. So we have got a molded set of clasped hands. So it looks like they're shaking hands, or greeting one another. So we've got a Kamen Rider 1 hand, we've got a Kamen Rider 2 hand. These are both right hands, so you can pop these on and you can make it look like they're shaking hands. It's honestly kind of difficult to get them posed while you're putting this all together, but it does work out pretty well in the end. The only thing I wish these guys had that they don't, and this goes for both of them, is that I wish they had a rider kick effect. I said that in the first review for Kamen Rider 1, and it still holds true. I wish this guy had it as well. So like I said here, there wasn't a great deal to talk about with this guy because I've already got a review that basically goes over the entirety of this figure. He just looks a little different. That said, I like the first figure. I do like this figure, but I don't think this is for everyone. This is definitely for someone who really cares about Kamen Rider, the original show, because for the most part, these are relatively expensive figures, and they are very similar. They are tons of reuse outside of a few cosmetic changes, which is fine for me because I love that original show, and when I had Kamen Rider 1, found out, yeah, I actually like this figure a lot more than I expected, so I had to get Kamen Rider 2 just for me personally, even though I'm not a diehard Kamen Rider guy. I do think they are a little light on accessories, and I really would like to have that rider kick effect, but I do like the handshake set of hands. I think that's actually a pretty cool idea. Makes for an interesting pose. I'm not going to display them like that, but it makes for interesting poses when you're taking pictures, and in general, it's just a solid all-around figure. So that's going to do it for this look at the Kamen Rider 2 figure from Bandai Tamashii Nations. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think, guys, and until next time.